Welcome to the Football Talks 4133 YouTube channel here. This is our first video today here. A huge NFL Sunday coming down here today. So many great games coming here today. Playoff implications. Who wants to win to the AFC? Tiebreakers. Divisional big games today. So much going down. We're going to break it all down for you guys. Starting right now, let's roll the tape. So let's start off here today with the first game of the day at 1 o'clock today. We have the Green Bay Packers taking on the Chicago Bears today. This game today is a big game, I feel like, for both teams. This is a huge rivalry game. I would say the biggest rivalry game of all time. It's been going on for 100 years now. The Packers, 6-3 on the year right now. They've looked very good the past few weeks here. They've really looked good the entire season. I think Jordan Love, if you can limit those turnovers, this team might be, 8-1. Somewhere around there. For the Bears, on their hand, they're 4-5 on the year right now. Caleb Williams is starting to struggle a bit. He's starting to see that rookie side of him right now. He looked good in the first few weeks of the year, but since that Bears-Commanders game, which the Bears lost on that Hail Mary, as we all know, this Bears team has looked terrible. Terrible might be an understatement on how bad this team has looked the past few weeks. Since their game against Washington, they went to Arizona, lost by 20 points, and they played New England last week and lost by 16 and scored a total of just 3 points. They have not scored a touchdown since they scored that touchdown without a minute left in that Commanders game. So, how did the Bears figure this out today? Well, it's quite simple. Caleb Williams needs to be himself again because he has not been himself the past 2 weeks. If we can show you here the stats against the Cardinals right there, Caleb Williams had 217 passing yards, 22 for 41 against the Cardinals. And last week versus the Patriots was even worse. He had just 120 passing yards through just over 50% completion. No touchdowns. The Bears offense has not been the Bears offense we want. They went out. You got Caleb Williams. You got your guy. You got Keenan Allen over the offseason. You have DJ Moore, who's been here for a few years now. And you have Rome Odunze, who also got in the first round. Those are a bunch of weapons right there for Caleb Williams, and it's not showing what we want to see from this team. This Bears team needs to figure it out and need to step it up today if they want to beat their rival Packers. Speaking of this rivalry, is it really a rivalry right now? Because I don't know if it is. Because being a rivals means that both teams are going to beat each other here and there. The last time the Bears beat the Packers, Caleb Williams was a sophomore in high school. So, will they get it done today? I don't think they will. I do think the Packers are going to win this game. But I will say, I think this game is a lot closer than people anticipated it being. The Packers are a 6-point favorite in this one. I expect Chicago to cover that today. I think this is going to be a lot tighter of a game. It's a rivalry game still, and you need to respect it. So let's move on to our next game here. We have Jacksonville taking on Detroit today here in a game where this is how a very different season for both teams. Let's start with the visiting team, the Jacksonville Jaguars today. Sitting in on the year right now at 2-8. They have not looked good at all this season. The time is ticking before Doug Peterson gets fired from this team. This team has just not been the same. They did actually a few weeks ago put up a good fight against my Eagles. They were getting destroyed, but Nick Sirianni and that Eagles team has to make it a close game all the time, it feels like. So the Jaguars, they made a close chance back, but still, they're 2-8. And they're going up against an 8-1 Lions team who only lost back in week 2 against the Bucs. This Lions team is the best team in the NFL right now. I don't care what you say. You're going to go, well, Kansas City is undefeated. I don't think that really affects who's the best team in the league right now. Sure, Kansas City hasn't lost a game. That's amazing. Look at college football last season. Florida State went undefeated. Were they the best team in the country? No, they weren't. So you need to see that stuff. But the Lions, on the other hand, they're 8-1. They've looked amazing. Last week, the Lions played on Sunday Night Football against the Texans. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, and they still won the game against the best team in the AFC South, Houston Texans team. This Lions team is amazing. Everywhere. Jared Goff looks great. Gibbs and Montgomery, that is a scary running back duo. The receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the tight end, and Sam Laporta. This Lions offense is unstoppable. And you got to see this Jacksonville defense, let's just be honest, has struggled a lot this year. Has to take on that Lions defense. This game could get ugly fast. The Lions have put up 42, 47, 31, 52. Like, 4 games this year, they've gone over 30 points, which is very impressive. So you need to respect this Lions team because they're going to come out hot today. And watch out for this Lions team. So give me the Lions to win this one as well. But yeah, let's move on now to our next game here. We have Las Vegas taking on Miami. You go back a few years ago when this was a Saturday NFL game in December, and Ryan Fitzpatrick had that. Remember that face mask, chucked it about 50 yards downfield. It was complete. The Dolphins went on to win that game. Now here's the difference of this game today. Both these teams need to win. Straight and simple. Both of these teams need to win this football game. Because looking at the wild card picture right now, the Dolphins are 3 games back. The Raiders are 4 games back. And the clock is ticking if they want a shot at the playoffs. Now, the Dolphins, could they start to have something go their way? You know, Tua's came back. It was looking like things may have was going to get back on the right track. But it hasn't. Let's just be honest. It really hasn't. You know, they're 1-2. They got a nice win against the Rams last week on Monday Night Football. So you have to come in on a bit of a shorter week. Just 6 days since your last game instead of 7. Against a Raiders team that, let's just be honest, has not looked the best this year. They sit at 2-7. They have not won a game since September 29th. It's been a while. To put it into other terms here, the last time the Eagles lost a game was September 29th. They're on a 6-game winning streak. Anyways, and includes the bye as well. Anyways, moving back to this game. The Raiders are struggling. And the big thing is, they don't have a quarterback. Aiden O'Connell, I really had some high hopes with you this year. I really did. But he's just not doing what the Raiders need from him. And Gardner Minshew's not doing anything either. This Raiders team in the offseason needs to go after a quarterback. They need to do it. They have so many great guys that are going to be there. You know, Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart. You know, these type of quarterbacks. Maybe Carson Beck. I don't know. He's struggling a bit, though. But I'm saying there's a lot of great quarterbacks coming out of this draft this year that the Raiders could really use. I know you just traded Devontae Adams away. You don't really have many weapons. Who's your best weapon right now? Jacoby Myers? Brock Bowers. Besides Brock Bowers, it's probably like Jacoby Myers. I mean, I don't really know what's really with this Raiders team right now. On the other hand, for the Dolphins, sure, Tua's not looking the best right now. But you still have weapons. Raheem Mostert, Donovan Chain, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and some other guys. So the Dolphins can still get offense moving here. But they're not getting the offense that we need to see from them. Tyreek Hill has 2 total touchdowns this year. Had his first touchdown last week against the Rams. The other touchdown was week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, it's been ugly for this team. But hey, I think Miami is a great shot. If they can win today, which they should, they're 7.5-point favorites. If Miami can win this football game today, they have a great shot at making the playoffs still, in my opinion. I know it's a 2-7 Raiders team. This isn't the Kansas City Chiefs. But this is a win that you can get under your belt. Listen to this Dolphins schedule coming up. You got the Raiders, then the Patriots, then you have the Packers, all right, in Green Bay on Thanksgiving night. But then the Jets, they look bad. Texans and Niners, all right, they'll be some tough. But then the Browns and Jets throughout the year. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games to end the year. If you can win all 5 of those, that gets you 8 wins. And then you have to win 1 more. That's 9 wins right there. You have a shot at the playoffs depending what happens. I don't think this Dolphins team's out of it yet, but we'll see. Let's move on now to our next game in the Rams versus the Patriots today. Another game today which not many people are really going to look at as a very good game on their bingo cards today. But Rams are 4-5 on the year. We thought we were going to start to see some more out of this team. They started winning a lot of games. They beat the Vikings. You know, they were looking really good. They beat Seattle as well. But then they lost to the Dolphins on Monday Night Football at home. So that's really rough right now. This Rams team is in a situation where they need to start winning games, but they don't need to do some craziness. Play your game. You have great players. Just play your game and you'll be fine. For the Patriots, on the other hand, but they're coming off of a victory over the Chicago Bears last week. Drake May just beat Caleb Williams by 13 points last week. This Patriots team has life, folks. It's crazy to think about it. This Patriots team has leg. Because it shows you what one win can turn into a stretch of wins. And that started with a lot of teams. For example, the Philadelphia Eagles. They beat the Browns, and then they won 5 straight since. They've had on a 16-win streak. That's what the NFL is. If you can win a game, you can get momentum and start winning a certain amount of games. That's what I can see from this Patriots team today. You beat the Rams, and you're on a 2-game winning streak. And then it just continues on. So watch out for this Patriots team today and Drake May. I expect Jalen Polk to have a good game today. Because let's be honest, the Rams did not stop that Dolphins passing game last week. They stopped the rushing game. But I expect Jalen Polk to have a huge game for this Patriots team today. If you're debating starting Jalen Polk in fantasy this week, do it. I want you to trust me on this one. And if it doesn't, come flame it. All right. But I expect Jalen Polk to have a big game for this Patriots team today. This Rams team, this Rams defense, especially on the passing game this year, has not been the best. And yeah, so I expect this game to be it's also going to be kind of cold outside in New York. So we'll see what that has to bring with the Southern California Rams team. Let's move on now to Cleveland versus New Orleans today at 1 o'clock today. This game is another game where it's kind of a bad game, to be honest. A lot of these 1 o'clock window games are just not the strong. It's a weaker week in the NFL, but there are some huge games this week that really, it started on Thursday night with that Eagles versus Commanders game. But let's move on now to this the Browns versus Saints game. Browns, they're sitting in at 2-7 right now. They're 2 wins this year. They beat the Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. A little bit of an interesting season for this Browns team. We expected a lot out of them this year. We expected this defense to play very well. And the defense actually has looked all right this year. The offense has not. This offense is struggling a tremendous amount. And for the Saints, the first 2 weeks, this offense looked like the best in the league. They were great shots to win the Super Bowl. They were looking amazing. And since then, they're 1-7 on the year. They're coming off a nice win versus the Falcons last week. But still, they're 1-7 in their last 8. They went on a 7-game losing streak. And they're going to take on a Browns team that also is 2-7. The Saints at 3-7. So both teams need to win this game today. And it'll be interesting to see how this comes down in the Superdome today. And I don't really have much to say with this one. This is a lot of guessing on what's going to happen today. Because both these teams have just been so... What's the right word here? I'm not sure what the right word here is. But both teams are not doing what they need to do. But let's move on to our next game now here. In the big 1 o'clock game today here between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. What a game this is going to be today. The 7-3 Baltimore Ravens taking on the 7-2 Pittsburgh Steelers today. The Pittsburgh Steelers, number 1 in the AFC North right now. Baltimore, number 2 in the AFC North. Baltimore, 7-1 in their last 8 games. The Ravens have turned the year around. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they've just been playing great football. They're coming off a nice win, going on the road last week to Washington and winning. Both these teams are going to give each other a lot of trouble. This is one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL right now. I'd say the second biggest rivalry in the NFL at this day and age. The only other one, Kansas City, Buffalo, number 1, which we'll talk about later. This is a huge rivalry game. How are both teams going to come off of their type of games last week? The Steelers coming off of that 1-point win over the Washington Commanders, and the Ravens coming off of that Thursday night win last week, 35-34 over the Bengals. Here's the big thing in this one. This Ravens team, yes, they're 7-3. Yes, they've looked great the past 8 weeks. But the Ravens passing defense needs to start stepping up. The Ravens got very lucky that this Bengals team does not know how to get coached, because this Bengals offense is amazing. It is. It really is. We'll talk about them more later today on this podcast here because they play on Sunday Night Football. But the Ravens should have lost that game last week, and they didn't. Because 2 things. Number 1, Harbaugh knows how to win close games. Number 2, the Bengals don't know how to win close games. Straight and simple right there. Every time they play Cincinnati, it's going to be a high-scoring game. And we know that. But overall, Baltimore is in a position right now where they have, they're coming off this really hard-fought win last Thursday night. They're running mini bye week, going to Pittsburgh. If you can beat Pittsburgh today, the AFC North might be over. I think whoever wins this matchup today in Pittsburgh is going to win the division. That's straight and simple right there. I'll get into all my picks and stuff later here. But yeah, let's move on now to the second to last 1 o'clock game that I hear between the Minnesota Vikings and the Tennessee Titans. The Vikings 7-2 on the season, only losses to the Lions and the Rams, and the Titans are 2-10. Yeah, the Titans right now currently sit though just third in their division right now. Yes, that's how bad the AFC South is. You have the great Texans team, a middle of the pack Colts team, and then two terrible teams in the division. The Vikings, on the other hand, 7-2, and have looked great this year. And they really have. Coming to this year, everyone was counting out the Vikings. You know, oh, they lost Kirk Cousins. How's this offense going to step up? How's this defense going to really do anything? And look where they are. It's 7-2, and they're silencing the haters right now. They really are. And it's in Tennessee, so that'll make it tough. The Vikings are only a 6-point favorite today. And I want to see how this game rolls out to be. It's going to be a gorgeous 71 degrees right there. So the Vikings don't have to wear that temperature because, you know, they play at the indoor stadium. Overall, I expect this Vikings team to dominate today. A dominating win out of this team. Because that's the type of team this Vikings team can be if they play at their full potential. And especially, they're playing the Tennessee Titans today. But I'm sorry, guys, they're just not very good. The only good player on the Titans right now, in my opinion, is Tony Pollard. On that offensive side of the ball. The defense, they have a few guys who've been able to step up and make some plays here. But on the offensive side right now, relies heavily on Tony Pollard. And this Vikings defense has done a great job this year defending the Russian defense. Finally, the last 1 o'clock game that I hear today, we have the Colts and the Jets today. The Colts, 4-6 on the year. Anthony Richardson's been benched. It's been a different year for this Colts team. They have Joe Flacco starting games right now because Anthony Richardson has turned the ball over way too much this season. For the Jets, they're 3-7 right now, and the Jets are in a spot where it's now or never. Let's just be honest. It is a now or never type year. They're coming off of a 25-point loss to the Cardinals last week. Since that Thursday night game back in Week 3 when they beat the Patriots, they have one win since. One win. That was against the Texans on Halloween Thursday Night Football. At the beginning of the year, they were looking great. They were 2-1. And now they lost the Niners back in Week 1, but they were supposed to. Their only win since was that Houston Texans game on Halloween. This is a now or never type year for the Jets. Because you have Aaron Rodgers you paid a ton of money for. He's not gone even remotely close to what you wanted. You traded for Devontae Adams. You traded for so many great players that this team needs to figure it out, and they need to figure it out fast. Because you know dang well, if they don't do something this year, Aaron Rodgers considers retiring. You know, Devontae Adams may request a trade. This is a now or never type year for the Jets. For the Colts, on the other hand, this is a type of year where it's very underperforming. You have a healthy Anthony Richardson, but he has done very little for this team this year. I'm sorry, Anthony Richardson. I really believed in you, but these interceptions have been rough. In the season leaders right now for the Colts at quarterback is Joe Flacco. He has played better this year than Anthony Richardson. The Colts need to figure it out with Anthony Richardson because I think he could be in for a fun year. But we'll see. We'll get more to that. Now let's move into the afternoon slate of games here. We have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Denver Broncos today in a game where I don't think this is a very underrated game today, guys. I know everyone's talking about the 4 o'clock window. Oh, Chiefs Bills. Yes, that's a great game. This is an underrated matchup today. The 6-4 Falcons taking on the 5-5 Denver Broncos today. In a game where, hey, the Broncos, are they going to win the division? Probably not. Let's be honest here. Kansas City is 9-0. But the Falcons right now, just a 2-game lead on the Bucs. They're coming off a rough loss last week to the New Orleans Saints. Both these teams really need to get a win here today. I think you look at the wild card picture. You have the Denver Broncos. They're currently up 2.5 games on the Colts right now for the last spot in the AFC. A win here today, and said that Jets can handle the Colts, and who knows what else is going to go down today, The lead by at the end of the day might be up to 3.5 games for the Broncos on that final spot, right? And for the Atlanta Falcons, they're currently the 3 seed in the NFC playoff picture, but the Cardinals are right there. And they're only, 2 games back of that Eagles team right now, which they can get it down to 1.5 today. And they have the tiebreaker over Philadelphia. But I don't think Philadelphia's going to be stopped for a while, though. However, they're on a 16 winning streak. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, you have an Eagles stuff. I don't care what you say. But the Falcons are still in a great position. I know they're coming off of a rough loss against New Orleans last week. But this Falcons team is still there, and they're still ready to come out and play football. So let's move on now to the second 4 o'clock game today. We have the Seattle Seahawks versus the San Francisco 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks, you're 4-5 on the year right now. They are in a different spot right now, for sure. They started the year off 3-0. Since then, they're 1-5. It's been rough for the Seahawks team, let's just be honest. Their only win in this stretch was the Atlanta Falcons back on October 20th. They're coming off of a bye week, which is huge. Because you're playing against a San Francisco 49ers team, let's just be honest, has kind of owned Seattle the past few years. This team is finally starting to win games. They haven't lost games since they lost to the Chiefs. They beat Dallas and they won the bye and they beat Tampa Bay out of the bye. You're playing the Seahawks team today who has a bad defense. They do. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. I don't like the Seattle defense at all. And with CMC having his second game back now, we saw him last week a bit against Tampa Bay. He looked good. He looked good out there. Now, getting comfortable again, finally got to play some competition. I expect CMC to have a big week this week. And I don't know how Seattle's going to be able to stop him. This Niners team is amazing. I'll be honest. This Niners team is still amazing. They're still a threat to this team, to this entire NFL in the Super Bowl right now. Brock Purdy hasn't reached his fullest potential. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they both haven't reached their full. Actually, Kittle's looked really good this year. But Deebo, CFC's finally back right now. If they can start to pick up the pace, this could be a very, very scary team. And finally now, the NFL's Game of the Week. Let's play a quick hype-up video for you guys right now.
Hear the alarm sound. They're gonna try to take me down. Flames going up now. It's time, it's time. No, I got the strength, but I gotta find it. Should I stay or go? I feel so divided. Out of hiding, bullets flying. Yeah, I'm fighting.
Not gonna change who I am just because you wanna force me to fake being something I'm not. Way the society's headed is real, I'ma get it. I'm in the world with the threat of being shot. Hated for what I believe in, but I'm not gonna turn my back on the only one I got. Even if that means going to prison and risk being fingerprinted by the cops. So put us in chains, cut through the artery veins. His death will not be in vain. If I'm retained, never will I be the same. Glory is worth all the pain, cause everything I'm not, I am this. I know we gon' be good here cause I am his. No matter what the lie says, with a violent twist. Never wave a white flag when the sirens hit.
I'm gonna fight for it. Give up my life for it. I'd rather live like this than let them hate me. Than to shut my mouth and praise me, praise me. Can you hear the sirens? Voices in the silence. Feelings are me dying, spirit in me rising. Can you hear the sirens? Hear the alarm sound. They're gonna try to take me down. Flames going up now. It's time, it's time.
So, yeah, it is going to be a huge game today between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs, 9-0 on the year. The Bills, 8-2. The rivalry continues today for both of these teams. Josh Allen, he's got Mahomes' number in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. He has yet to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Today, they meet in Buffalo today for a huge AFC game. Looking at the playoff picture. So, we're getting later in the year. You have to start looking at the playoff picture. You do. Kansas City, number 1. Buffalo, number 2. This is a type of game today. This feels like an early playoff game almost. I know we're in, week 11 right now? But still, this is a huge matchup today. And right now, how both these teams are playing, we are in for an amazing this game's either going to go 2 ways. Number 1, it's a very low-scoring, defense-type game. Both defenses show up. Or number 2, this is a very high-scoring type football game today. The over-under is 46.5 right now. How does Josh Allen, he's able to beat Mahomes in the regular season. He is. But he can't beat him in the playoffs. How is he going to have his mindset of, we need to beat this Chiefs team. They're undefeated. They're coming to our house. How do we beat this team? Amari Cooper, he's questionable for the game. I'm making this podcast right now. It's 11:34 a.m. Eastern time. So I don't know yet anything about the injury reports for these two teams today. But all I know is it is going to be a great game, folks. We'll get into my picks in a bit here, but this is just a huge hype up for you guys. And finally, let's move into Sunday Night Football here. We have the 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals versus the 6-3 Los Angeles Chargers. The Bengals, 4-6 on the year right now. They're in a tougher position right now on the season. But hey, they're there. They're ready to. They're this close to being from a below 500 team to a Super Bowl contender. Now, before I go into more of that, there are other questions to go in here. When do we start to go, this Bengals team might be a fraud? Because it feels like every year, this entire season, guys, we're in week 11 and this Bengals team has not lived up to what we need them to live up to. Every year we go, oh, this Bengals team's still scary. Oh, this Bengals team's still there. Oh, this Bengals team. But you're 4-6. You have the same record as teams like the Colts, the kind of like Dallas in a way, the same record as the Bucs, but we're not saying they're Super Bowl contenders. But why is that? Because the only thing that's holding this Bengals team back right now is the coaching. The offense, arguably the best offense in the league right now. The defense, they've looked pretty dang good this year. I'll say it. They've looked pretty solid. I think they've looked better than they have last year. I know they missed the playoffs last year. They didn't have Joe Burrow for half the year. Joe Burrow's still having a great year. The only thing that's stopping them right now is that this Bengals team is the coach. For the Chargers, on the other hand, they're 6-3 on the year. They have looked great. Herbert's looked very good this year. In Jim Harbaugh's first year as this Chargers head coach, he's really stepped up this team today. Time now. Let's move in here now for I want to go over one more thing real quick. My fantasy players for each position to look out for today here. I'm going to give you guys 3 quarterbacks today, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 3 defenses, all to look out for. I'm not giving you guys the kickers. That's just kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. Let's start off with the quarterbacks today. My 3 quarterbacks in fantasy to start today. First up, C.J. Stroud. Tomorrow night against Dallas. Dallas' defense, especially at home this year, has looked terrible. They allowed 34 against Philadelphia last weekend. Jalen Hurts only played about 3 quarters last week. And Dallas still allowed 34. They let Kenny Pickett come in and look pretty solid. I expect C.J. Stroud to have a huge game tomorrow with this high-powered Texans offense. And yeah, so that's my first guy. My second guy, Jared Goff. Taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars today. The Jaguars, they have looked terrible this year, especially on the passing type side. This Lions team and Jared Goff today is going to throw this ball around amazingly today. I expect a big game from him. And number 3 on the quarterbacks to look out for today is Brock Purdy. This Seattle defense has not looked good very, very well this year. Well, let me say this. Since they started 3-0, they've not looked very good, especially on the defensive side. I expect Brock Purdy to throw for a lot today here. Those are my 3 quarterbacks. My 3 running backs to look out for. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. This might be a no-brainer. I don't know. But I expect it to be a big game for him today. I expect, this is the second game back from injury now, like I said earlier. I expect him to run this ball amazingly today. And honestly, I don't know how Seattle's going to stop him. This offensive line, there is not really a weak side of this Niners team, to be honest, right now. Maybe Jake Moody. I don't know. But I expect CMC to have a big game. My second guy to look out for today in the running game is Tony Pollard against the Minnesota Vikings. You're probably a little bit confused going, why Tony Pollard? Well, let's be honest here. This Titans passing game has looked terrible this year. Will Levis has been benched. This team right now is in a position where they are going to have to start running the ball with Tony Pollard if they want to start anything. And I expect him to get, 25 or so touches today and have a big game. My third player to look out for today here in the running side of things here is Alvin Kamara. I expect Kamara to have a good game for this New Orleans Saints team today. They're taking on this Browns team. It's 2-7 right now. The Saints passing hasn't looked the best, to be honest, this year. Derek Carr has not been the same this year. Whoever ends up going in a quarterback, if Derek Carr gets benched, this Saints team has not looked the strongest. Let's just be honest. I know they're coming off of a nice win against the Falcons last week, right? But let me go through the passing stats in that one real quick. Last week against the Falcons, they had Derek Carr threw for 269 and 2 touchdowns. You're probably going, wow, what's so bad about that? Besides that game, when they played the Carolina Panthers, he looked bad. The Saints passing game is still not there yet, so I expect Alvin Kamara to have a big game. And my third running back is David Montgomery. It starts to look that David Montgomery is starting to get more reps than Jahmyr Gibbs, and I would definitely still start Jahmyr Gibbs. But if you're going between guys like maybe David Montgomery and maybe a guy like, I don't know, Raheem Mostert, or a guy like, I don't know, who else? I'm not really off the top of my head. Or Austin Eckler, someone like that. Well, Austin Eckler, but a guy like that. I would go with David Montgomery. Maybe take David Montgomery over DeAndre Swift today. I expect him to have a good game today. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I also think they're going to throw it a lot too as well. I just kind of expect this Lions offense is going to step up a lot today for this team against this Jaguars team, and I think they're going to have a really fun game. It's almost going to look like a Madden game out there today for this Lions offense. Let's move down to my 3 wide receivers. Number 1, give me Justin Jefferson. They're playing the Titans, like I said. Number 2, if he plays today, actually no, I'm almost go with Amari Cooper, but I'm not going to. My second guy on the wide receivers out today, Zay Flowers for this Ravens squad. I expect him to have a really good game against the Steelers team. I think Pittsburgh's got a great rushing defense. They're going to have to eventually go to the air. I think Zay could have a big game. And number 3, I don't think many people really have this one, but like I said, Jalen Polk for this Patriots team today. He's my big underrated guy to look out for today. They're playing the Rams. This Rams passing defense has looked terrible this year. I expect him to have a big game. Maybe, but again, Jalen Polk is the guy where if you don't really know who to put at your wide receiver, who's going to go in at that flex spot today, maybe give it to him. And this might be the worst take I'll give, but it is what it is. My 3 tight ends. Number 1, Brock Bowers versus the Dolphins. Simple, easy. Number 2, George Kittle versus the Seahawks. Simple and easy. And number 3, there's a lot of guys, but I expected this week. Give me Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. I expect him to find a lot today, especially Amari Cooper. He's questionable today. He may not play this one. We're going to find that out around, 3 o'clock or so, 2:30, if he's going to be playing or not. But, yes, those are my guys. And my 3 defenses. I mean, this is going to sound really boring. Number 1, Detroit. Number 2, Minnesota. And number 3 here, this one's actually a little bit different, I think. Give me the New Orleans Saints. The Browns' offenses look terrible. So those are my 3s to look out for. Now it is time for the NFL Sunday predictions. If you already went over the Instagram, you can see the picks that we have. But I'm going to be giving you guys my picks anyways because, why not? Let's start us off today. We've got the Packers and the Bears today here in a huge NFC rivalry, arguably the biggest rivalry of all time. The Packers have not lost to the Bears since Caleb Williams was a sophomore in high school. That streak continues today. Packers over the Bears. Move up here. Lions versus the Jacksonville Jaguars today. It seems that I'm picking the Lions to do everything right today, and I think they do. Lions by 50. Next up here, Vikings taking on the Titans. Give me the Vikings to win this one today. Like I said, I think they're going to have a big game down in Tennessee. Dolphins versus the Raiders. I mean, it's both teams either win, like I said earlier. But I trust this Dolphins team enough. I said it already. Momentum is a big thing today. Dolphins to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. The Rams taking on the New England Patriots today. I said Jalen Polk will have a nice game for this Patriots team today. But for the prediction, I'm going with the Rams still. I think this Rams team, I think Kyren Williams could have a nice game today against New England today. And I think that both these teams are going to be maybe relying also a lot on the ground game as well today. But give me the Rams to win this one. Browns versus the Saints? Give me the Saints. I mean, this is kind of like a throw-up game here. Both teams are struggling a lot this year, but I'm going to go with the Saints. We've got Indianapolis versus the Jets today. I'm going to go with the Colts over the Jets. We're going to skip the Baltimore-Pittsburgh. I'll come back to that. Falcons versus the Broncos today. Give me the Falcons to win that one. Seattle versus San Francisco. I'm going with San Francisco. I'm going to skip over the Kansas City one real quick. Bengals versus Chargers. This is the last week I am giving the Bengals my pick. Because if they lose tonight, I'm done picking them. Bengals over the Chargers. And real quick, my Monday Night Football prediction, I had the Texans over the Cowboys. Now, we'll start off here. Baltimore versus Pittsburgh today. Huge AFC North game between the two teams today. I think this is arguably the second biggest rivalry in the league right now. These two teams hate each other. Lamar taking on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. This Steelers defense versus the Baltimore defense. Both teams have looked amazing this year. For the prediction, give me the home team. Give me the Steelers to beat the Baltimore Ravens today. The Ravens, I don't know if they can beat the Steelers that much anymore. It feels that the Steelers have just looked amazing every week. Give me the Steelers to beat the Baltimore Ravens. And now, the game of the day, Kansas City, Buffalo. The biggest rivalry in the NFL right now today. Mahomes versus Allen. The Chiefs defense, Bills offense. Huge game today. For the prediction. Hey, let's go Buffalo, let's go Buffalo. Give me the Buffalo Bills over the Kansas City Chiefs today. In that game today, I expect Buffalo to end Kansas City's undefeated season today. So those are my NFL predictions. Thank you all for listening to the Sunday podcast. We'll be back tomorrow as always. I'm Patrick. This is Football Talks 4133. Enjoy the NFL games today. And yeah, let's do it.